Welcome, everyone. Today we are going to talk about the Teacher of All, Part 2. And this is taken from Teachings of Christ, Volume 2, Chapter 3. And we will do the second part of what we started last time. First, I will summarize Part 1, and then we will discuss how this guidance that Christ gave us to strengthen and empower us, how that will be applied to a life of service. I learned so much by studying this chapter and by preparing these talks, and I hope you have the time to read this chapter many, many times and really consider what they mean. All of us have read portions of the New Testament, especially the Gospel of Matthew, that many of these quotes are taken from. And this time we are really going to go more deeply into it and see how it applies to us as 21st century Ageless Wisdom students. Now, Christ admonished all his disciples and followers, and now all of us who study the Ageless Wisdom teaching, to become the following. This is a summary from last time. First, to become respectable, right? Respectable, authentic, noble, people with gravitas. When we have these qualities, we will not do anything that brings shame to the teachings of great ones. We won't. What did he advise us to do? First one was, don't be hypocrites. Do you remember that? Don't be hypocrites. Do not pretend you are high and mighty, a master, and then not do anything you ask others to do. A teacher, a parent, a spouse, a disciple must have integrity. Second, he said to honor the teacher of all, who is directly connected to the Father, Mother, Source, to the higher worlds. He or she is the source, not me, not you. In religious, spiritual fields, in leadership fields, people are influenced by teachers, by pastors, by leaders. They're influenced. So he said to be careful not to make yourself the source of wisdom and power. That's very important nowadays, very important. Sometimes people puff themselves so much, they demean themselves even by the puffery, but they also demean themselves by being so fake humble. Fake humble is just as bad as puffed up ego. Consider that. Both of these are full of ego, vanity, pretense. Look at me, how puffy I am and wonderful, or look at me, how simple and meek I am. Neither of those work. He said to work, to strive, to learn, so we have true life experiences. We can't just parrot what we learn from the books. We have to live and strive and learn so that we can say, I have lived through this. These true life experiences are what guide us. In all our relationships, book learning does not guide us. It just starts the process. But putting into practice what we learn will create livingness in us. So when we experience true livingness, we have life. So when Christ said, I am the life, he knew what he was talking about because he learned, he lived. We have life in our words, in our actions, in our creations, in our relationships. This is so important. I thought, what is life? Life means interactivity, continuity. It means continuous renewal, learning. It's not a dry, dead branch. It means continuous expansion. There's continuity of life eventually leading to continuity of consciousness. Christ said he was the truth, the life, and the way because he demonstrated it by his life, his continuous connection to the source. When we're connected, we don't dry up. having laid the foundation, having a life of integrity, having linked to the source, now we are ready for a life of service. Service means that we demonstrate in everything we do, the people we lead and mentor and teach and inspire and guide and love, that in all our relationships with the world, we are following this guidance. That's why he stands as a model of teacher for us, as a model of parent, as a model of leader, okay, as a model of a spouse even. So this, and listen to this carefully, this kind of livingness creates in us resilience, spiritual resilience, that no matter what happens, we have a living life inside of us that will pull us through. I think this is so important as we all have gone through many, many crises. The whole world has in the last 5 or so years. The whole world. Nobody has escaped some kind of drastic experience. But if we have this livingness, we develop spiritual resilience. We might be down for a while, but not for long. Okay, we might get confused and sad, but we'll come through. And if we help each other, that'll even get better. You see, friendship, spiritual connection is so important for us, especially during these times of trial. Now, public service, leadership, to be successful and long-lasting, has to be survivable. We have to survive it. Nowadays, it's so easy to have people take pot shots at each other on social media, demeaning people in 1 second. So look how strong you have to be. It's not just unseen forces. It's things on the internet and social media. You have to be aware and be able to survive. And we can survive if we build a firm foundation. Our maturity, our balance, our selflessness develops the strength in us. Why do we want to serve? Teaching says you've got to serve. Why? Well, our life grew and improved because somebody taught us. I didn't just born knowing. I learned from people, from leaders and teachers and parents and friends. I learned from them. They taught us, they loved us, they guided us, they held us up when we fell down, and they showed us by example. So we have to do the same. We have to take and we have to give, otherwise we cannot have livingness in us. Our roots will rot, just like when a tree gets too much water, it rots. See? We grow and spread this light to others so they too will grow and have benefit. So let's see from our first handout, which is taken from page 58, what he says. Let's read together. He says that the Spirit will let you know what to talk. Do you see that, where it is? That's the first quote. Does it start with the next one is so interesting? Is that the one that you're seeing?
That's the first one. The next one is where it starts.
Okay, let's start with the next one is so interesting. Christ is sending his disciples, his students, into the world to teach him, to teach about him. And he says that the Spirit will let you know what to talk, what to preach, because the Spirit will take from my Father and give it to you. It is a connecting link. Look what he says about how he is going to send the disciples. This is so important. So we are not going to get out and talk nonsense. We are not preaching about ourselves. This is not about me or you as a person. It is about the spiritual wisdom. Because why? Look at the next quote. Lo, let's read together. I am sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be wary and wise as serpents, and be innocent, harmless, guileless, and without falsity as doves. Here are the key items. First, we're going to connect to the spirit, the soul, the higher worlds, the highest we can find in us. Our speech, our actions will be guided from that link. Esoterically, what we have done is we have created the mental bridge from our lower mind, our physical body and our emotions, to the higher mind, to the soul. This is called what? The Antankarana, the rainbow bridge. So when we make that connection is what will guide what we say and do. The spirit will be the electrical energy that comes from the source, travel to us, and it will inform us what a disciple says and does. This connection is for our safety. Okay? Let me say that again. Pay attention to this. This is very important. That connection to the higher worlds is for our safety. You have a seal around you, a shield around you, when you have made this connection. We have built a protective aura around us. The aura is a shield of protection and glory, we are told. Let's look again, what is the aura made up of? So that we are very, very sure. It's made up of a healthy physical body. So it radiates and shields us. A healthy etheric body. A healthy emotional body. A healthy mental body. We're not done yet. It is made up of the radiation of the chalice. However amount of light we have, the love we have, and willpower we have, that radiation shows in our aura. The active presence of our solar angel is also part of our aura. The active presence of you as a human soul is also visible in the aura. This is our shield. Do you see how this shield is connected to the higher worlds? And how when we are connected to the higher worlds, we will be protected. So with this link, we are sure to be innocent. Innocent of malice, of ego. I want to say something to get to them, to make them right, to demean them in a sneaky way sometimes. Innocent of malice and ego. No, that's not acceptable when we teach those wisdom teachings or when we lead as disciples of the teaching, disciples of Christ. We need to be awake and aware of our surroundings. This is so important. We don't just speak out inappropriately. We don't demean, we don't criticize others, we don't try to hurt others with our words. We are watchful, alert, and wise, and we have co-measurement. That's what that means. Sometimes it's better to keep our mouth shut. Just be. Our presence, our aura will show exactly what we're all about. You don't have to say something sometimes. It's better for us to err on the side of not saying rather than saying. Just quiet. So important that we learn co-measurement. Otherwise, the very teaching and spiritual practice that we love and honor will cause harm and be misunderstood. I've seen this. Sometimes we blurt something out and it doesn't land well. Has that ever happened to you? Well, it has for me, and I think, what was I thinking by saying that? You see, we have to be careful. Know when to speak, when to act, and when not. When to even not react. So he says to be innocent of any revenge, of any score to settle. Harmless, kind, and loving. Guileless, no hidden agenda, no falsity, but truth, purity. It's beautiful, isn't it? But look at, sometimes we think of those qualities as weakness. They're not. They create our shield because our ego and our vanity and our glamours are not involved in what we say. What's involved? The higher world. We have a nice open way and we just keep that personality down. So this is speaking to our motive. Do we teach to uplift, heal, and connect, or to show superiority, cut down others, hurt others with our word and ego. So let's remember again, our motive is and should be innocent, harmless, guileless, truthful. This is the best communication quality we can find, right? Best communication. Imagine if all the pastors and ministers and leaders in the world, coaches and teachers, tell the truth, but in a co-measured way. If we stop and assess our environment and know what and how to teach, we will be successful, living people. Our motive must never be to enrich ourselves at the expense of others, okay? So again, remember, all of us, our teachers, our friends, priests and preachers, parents and spouses, coaches and mentors, fathers, mothers, and grandparents. All of us have these roles. These are beautiful relationships, and we should base these on the teachings of Christ and the way that he modeled for us. Okay, now let's go from the second part. This is taken from page 59, and it starts with the quote, "Be on guard." Do you see that? Okay. Let's read that together because this is such a serious paragraphs. "Be on guard against the men, for they will deliver you up to the councils and flog you in the synagogues, and you will be brought before governors and kings for my sake, for witness to bear testimony before them and to the Gentiles. But when they deliver you, do not be anxious about how or what you are to speak, for what you are to say will be given you in that very hour and moment. For it is not you who are speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you." Wow, I love this. I love it. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, this is applicable to us wherever we are, whomever we speak to, in whatever environment. This isn't just religion. I mean, people will contradict and argue, but this is such a strong warning for us. As long as we're connected to the highest power, we will know when to speak and when not to speak and what to say, right? It's really telling me, put your ego outside. You don't know everything. You don't know what's going on in people's lives every minute. You don't know. So it's best to just wait and know when to speak. It's a serious warning that when we speak the truth, you will not necessarily be applauded and given accolades. When people have a set of beliefs and you contradict it, be careful. Okay, be careful. If you are truly connected to the source, then no matter how people vilify you, you will be protected. This is heavy for me. I really thought, wow, if we're going to do the work of the teaching, which in many ways we do, even bigger and bigger as the years come, which is so necessary now in the world, we'll take these and wear these as armor for us. Don't expect instant appreciation and accolades. Don't expect it. Let's continue. This is a three-part quote that's taken from Matthew 10:21 to 28, and it's on pages 60 to 61. Do you see where that is? For it is not you who are speaking. Do you see that? Okay, let's start reading that together. For it is not you who are speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Okay, let's stop there and just remember that when you are going to say something very important to anyone, and let me add here, even to yourself, okay, even to yourself, let the soul speak through you. Let the highest speak through you. Because sometimes we do many wrong things, but the worst thing we do is to demean ourselves and call ourselves names at moments of tragedy or sadness. We just take that anger against ourselves and he said, don't do that. Okay, let's continue. and you will be hated by all for my name's sake. But he who perseveres and endures to the end will be safe from spiritual disease and death in the world to come. When they persecute you in one town, flee to another town. That's very symbolic that I'd like you to think about and what that really means symbolically. But look at this. You will be safe from spiritual disease and death in the world to come. Because why? You'll be elevated to continuity, to the higher worlds. That's where real life is. Let's go to the next one. So have no fear of them, for nothing is concealed that will not be revealed, or kept secret that will not become known. This is so important. I thought and thought about it. Wow, I thought. The reason why I don't see everything is because I don't have higher worldly eyes. But everything is visible in the higher world. It's the physical eyes and the physical brain that doesn't see. But in the higher worlds, everything is unconcealed. Everything is open. And who sees us in the higher worlds? Who hears us? Who observes us? Starting with our solar angel, right? Everything we do is visible. So we can't think that nobody noticed, everything is closed. No, everybody noticed. Everything is open. That's kind of scary, but it helps us to start cleaning up and being innocent, right? Innocent as doves, he says. That's so beautiful. Look at the next one. This is so important for us. What I say to you in the dark, tell in the light. And what you hear whispered in your ear, proclaim upon the housetops. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul, but rather be afraid of him who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Wow, that would be exactly the condition in the lower astral planes, wouldn't it? The dark forces would have a lot of fun if we put ourselves in that space. So persevere, endure to the end. When you take on spiritual practice for discipleship, be in it for the long term and keep going. Always remembering to connect to the source. And this is so important for us at this time. Have no fear. Okay, have no fear. Everything will eventually be revealed. There are no secrets, especially in the higher worlds. Everything is open. Be wary. How is our soul killed? How is our soul demeaned? And I thought, how is that done? Lies. Lies condition our brain to stay in the lower mental body and not go to the truth level, to the higher worlds, and then we can be gullible to anything, swallow any pill that's told us. Hypocrisy, addictions, spending money and loading our credit cards without being able to pay, staying busy with social media that has no meaning, toxic language, toxic thought, racism, separatism, fanaticism, hatred, and you know the rest. All of these keep us engrossed in the subconscious mind, and we are susceptible to close our soul path. That door that goes to the soul will be closed if we continue with this. Sometimes we wonder, how did these people do what they did? Their mind was closed. So you've got to love them, not hate them, right? Got to love them, not hate them. They don't know what happened to them. This is why we have to do what we have to do. Okay. Aren't these powerful? Yeah. Let's go to the next part. We start where not two little sparrows, right? But let me read before that a passage from page 61 and just listen to this. He says, of course, the soul is not destroyed, but polluted. When the mind is crooked, when you are able to deceive a man's mind and make him believe that whatever lies you are saying are the truth, then his mind is not functioning now. Wow. The mind is created, listen to this carefully because I want you to meditate on this. This is so important. The mind is created only to function in a right direction to the higher worlds. But you killed the mind, you killed the soul of the man, and you killed the striving of that person. If you kill the striving of the man, you kill his soul for a long time until he recovers and says, let me strive more. So here, let me pause a minute, and if whatever you feel, if any time in your life, we all go through this. You feel like, I can't do this anymore. Have you ever been there? I have. There are times when I think, how am I going to continue? Well, remember this. Let me strive more. Let me overcome, because I can do it. Why? Because we're connected to Christ, to the Father and Mother in the divine worlds. And if we can remember that connection, no matter what's happening, we will recover and say, let me strive more. It's beautiful. So let's read the next one, where Christ shows us how precious we are. How precious. I think this is so tender, such a tender moment that parent, friend, a loved one will say to each other. And he says, let's read together. Were not 2 little sparrows sold for a penny? And yet not one of them will fall to the ground without your Father's leave and notice. But even the very hairs on your head are all numbered. Fear not then. You are of more value than many sparrows. Oh. Let's read that last line again. Fear not then. You are of more value than many sparrows. Do you like that? What courage and power he is giving to his disciples and to us. He is shielding us, encouraging us, showing us we have value, that no matter what the voice inside of you of the personality says, whatever other people say, it doesn't matter. You have value, and you have value. When you have value and you have no doubt, close your eyes and let's just take a minute. No doubt. Put the shield of Christ around you. Just close your eyes and just breathe in and just say whatever words you want to say. Whatever words you want to say. Anytime you have doubt, anytime you need to be redirecting yourself, close your eyes and remember how much love and value Christ and the great ones are putting on us and guiding us with. Let's go to the next passage that's taken from pages 62 to 63. And this is again Matthew 10:32 to 42. It's a big passage, but I think it's very powerful, and it's something that will take a lot of thinking. Let's start with the first passage. Do not think that I have come to bring peace upon the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. A sword is for cutting. For cutting what? Let me let that hang, okay? Just say, what is he trying to cut? And let's look at this next paragraph. What is he really saying here that sounds so painful? Okay, let's read together. For I have come to part asunder a man from his father, and a daughter from her mother, and a newly married wife from her mother-in-law. And a man's foes will be they of his own household. He who takes more pleasure in father or mother than me, and loves them more than me, is not worthy of me. And he who does not take up his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. I really thought about this a lot, and I'd like you to think about it and see what it really means to you. He's not just talking father-mother and relationships. He's talking about something very, very deep here. Let's go to the next passage. Whoever finds his life will lose, and whoever loses his life on my account will find. Here's a recipe, okay? He who receives and welcomes and accepts you receives and welcomes and accepts me. And he who receives and welcomes and accepts me receives and welcomes and accepts him who sent me. He who receives and welcomes and accepts a prophet because he is a prophet shall receive a prophet's reward. And he who receives and welcomes and accepts a righteous man because he is a righteous man shall receive a righteous man's reward. And whoever gives to one of these little ones even a cup of cold water because he is my disciple, surely I declare to you, he shall not lose his reward. Wow. Christ is not a soft and fuzzy person. Not at all. He's giving a path for us to cut from the past. What keeps us enthralled in misery is our inability to let the past go. Even precious relationships, we are lifting them to continuity. Our life is first based on Christ, then all our relationships will have integrity. Torkom writes, when you start listening to such a lecture, or if you start learning something, anytime you learn a truth or something that is really factual or beautiful, it puts a tremendous responsibility on you. This is from page 65. The responsibility turns into two things, striving and testing. Every time you get a teaching, let's say that you read a verse from the New Testament and it says, do not lie. Okay, now you have to know about it, and it's a heavy responsibility. Okay, so whenever we read something in the teachings, these are instructions for us, for mature people who want to go to the next step. Let's conclude with the following words. In these two parts of Teacher for All, we learned what it means to be a person of integrity and how to share our experience and our wisdom so it's effective and harmless to others. These are guidance for our spiritual growth and our spiritual beauty. Christ is showing us that we always put the teachings of the great ones ahead of everything in our life. And when we do, we will have true livingness. We will know what to do in our relationships and in our life. Our life will improve because it will be based on higher values and principles. Our families, our businesses, our groups, our nation will be a success, prosperous, when they're based on the teachings of great ones. If we do not make this connection, then we will not be living. With this connection, we have strength to always be lawful, truthful, integrated, resilient, and creative, and we will always know what to do and say at the right time. Let's make sure we remember these teachings and guidance, because it will help us be more effective in our life in whatever we do. And just like we received the help and nurture of our teachers and our great mentors, we must do the same for others. Okay? Thank you so much. And let's close with an Om. Close your eyes. And just think of Christ on a mountain, blessing all humanity, sending us the shield of his protection, his strong words and guidance. Breathe it in. Oh.